have you had a moment where you've been too wintered? Like you said, the Navy SEALs, when you think you've hit your peak, you're really only 40%. Have you hit 100%? Have you had it like 99 even where you are on the cusp of quitting?
So this gets weird. So like, we do this down Gymshark. We've got sports scientists. We do basically, I'm going to keep this quite short, but you have what's called a strength deficit. So a strength deficit is basically where you measure your training strength and your absolute strength. So imagine you've got quad extension machine, so you're measuring the strength of your quads. Yep. We'd say like in a laboratory, okay, boom, would hook let's use Mike. We hook Mike up and we go like smelling salts, I'm slapping you on the back and we go, right, Mike, fucking get angry. And you see how much force you can generate through your quads with you voluntarily contracting it.
Got it.
So you're just there like getting wired and you do bang, gone. And we measure how much force you generate, strength, your body's ability to generate force. Then what we can do is we can electrically stimulate and involuntary contract your quadriceps. So what that does, we electrocute you, and then your quadriceps basically will contract like to their full. I just kicked over a chair.
Somebody just contracted your quad for you, and you kicked the chair over.
But we would contract your quadriceps, so you don't have any control over it. You would basically just sit there, and we electrocute them. We involuntary contract. The difference between those two is what's known as your strength deficit. Now, for some people, it will be a large strength deficit, which means that you've got muscle mass, but you're not using it to the full potential. You're not recruiting all the muscle fibers you have. And then other people will have quite a small deficit. And if you have a small deficit, what you can do then is say, okay, you need to build muscle. You need bulk.
Yep.
To use a UFC example, I think it's fascinating right now when you look at John Jones trying to go up to heavyweight. People are going, we'll just bulk up. No, you need to do that, but understanding your strength deficit. You can't just go up and build this, unfunctional muscle mass.
Yep.
So to answer your question, Logan, it gets real interesting that when you start looking, I had quite a small strength deficit. So they said, yeah, you're recruiting quite a lot. Like I was on smelling salts, getting wired. And they were like, oh yeah, cool. You're recruiting your muscle fibers. And then in terms of cardio, I mean, you guys would be more than welcome at Loughborough Uni. We do VO2 tests there where you're hooked up into a horse harness and they just basically incrementally put it up. So in the end, we're trying to basically replicate Kipchoge's sub-2-hour marathon pace. Wow. And it will end when you're basically just like dribbling, being sick, being suspended like that from the harness. So to answer your question, I pushed it to some like pretty dark places where I'm dribbling, probably lost control over my bowels. but afterwards, in lab conditions, you go, cool. Now we know where you're at. And then that allows me when I'm swimming, they're looking at my heart rate and everything. And what Gymshark can turn around with all of this biofeedback, they can go, yeah, but you're not actually at your capacity. Your heart rate's only here. Your VO2, your lung capacity, we know is here.
Ross,
strength deficit.
Do you have any stats that are anomalies, like things that aren't normal of most people?
Do you know what? It's a good question. Not really. And that's why I do think that, with a lot of the strategy, I'm not Michael Phelps. I'm 5'8". So it's not like you can say, I swim around Great Britain because he's got, a wingspan like this. I'm a small guy. I think one thing was probably the food that I could eat 15,000 calories. People were going like, how do you put that away? I was like, how do you not? Like,
that's insane. That's a lot of food. When I was in training camp for boxing, I think I maxed maybe 6,000 calories a day, maybe.
Clean or dirty or like
pretty clean stuff. Clean. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's a lot clean.
But also, I couldn't eat any more than that. I couldn't even if I tried. If someone handed me a McGriddle from McDonald's, I wouldn't be able to eat it. So I guess what you're saying, like, being able to even intake that much food, maybe that's an advantage of yours.
Yeah, honestly, because like the swim, it was weird because it didn't become a swim anymore. It was just like you're trying to control the breakdown of the body. Everything like medically, I was talking about as well, like wetsuit chafing was so bad. I remember waking up some days and like my bed sheets had fused to the wounds on my neck. So I had to rip it off before I could even get in.
Put some vitamin E on that shit.
That's exactly it. And then I think what thing that's so interesting is like training your stomach. Like people are like, what do you mean? And it's like before a fight, before a long bike ride, you need to know like in terms of nutrigenomics. So like we're only understanding this now, how your nutrition interacts with your individual genetics, your gut biome, all of that sort of stuff. That now it's crazy that there's so many people who will turn up for a marathon having not drilled nutritional strategies. I'm like, how do you not know what works for your stomach?
For sure.
Whereas for me, like in training, I was doing 20K a day swimming with a picnic on the side of the pool. So I knew that when I got in and was doing the GB swim, I knew exactly what my stomach could and couldn't handle. You know, even to the point of like seasickness as well. I mean, there was a story in the book that I talk about just quickly, but like I was basically going, you know, when I talked about the Appendant Firth and how fast the tides were up there.
Yeah.
So basically I'm swimming away, and so bad, like the swells are huge up there. So I got real bad seasick. And so with the breath, I turned to breathe, and then I was basically sick underwater. And then I turned to breathe at the same time. The problem was I was swimming with a tailwind, so these waves were coming behind me. So I quickly realized that the tides and currents were pushing my own sick as fast as I could swim.
It was just sticking with you.
So I'm trying to outswim my own sick, and it's just I'm just bathing in it like that, just like with it all washing over me. So it's knowing.
Was that before or after you swam in the poop? And again,
that was before.
Okay,
that was before. Okay. So I mean, I was having a rough time. Or the like towards But yeah, it's knowing that like how your body's going to interact with that. And like I said, getting wintered, it's adversity training that you know you've done that. You've gone to those deep waters before you get there. You know, and I think too often people won't do that. They won't do those VO2 tests where you're left dribbling. You won't do strength deficit tests, but you need to know what material you're using and what you're working with. You know, if you've not got a big VO2, cool, at least you know it.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're going to do any sort of physical feat of that magnitude, you definitely got to be as prepared as possible.